A Russian bachelor gets tired of lonely living, coming home to a dumpy apartment, heating up a can of soup for dinner. He thinks it's time to get married. There happens to be a new neighbor, nice-looking single lady who just moved into an apartment upstairs. Why don't I just go up, knock on her door, and talk to her under some pretext? I'll ask her for an iron. Yeah, may I borrow your iron, lady? Then one thing leads to another, and before you know it, you'll probably be a happy married man. So he just, heads out, goes upstairs, and as he's walking, he's starting to have second thoughts. Can't come home late. Can't go watch soccer with my buddies. She's gonna get on my case about housework. You're drinking too much. He slows down more and more. Finally, the lady opens the door, smiles at him, and he says, "Why don't you just keep your damn iron, lady?" Now, what does this have to do with kettlebells, comrade? As any Russian, I'm presuming that you have not completed your rite of passage from Enter the Kettlebell. And if you have not, you have no business reading Return of the Kettlebell. Then again, if I'm wrong and you have done 200 snatches with a 24 kilo and one arm military pressed half your body weight, I stand corrected. In that case, enjoy the pain of Return of the Kettlebell. Comrade, our first drill, the double clean. When Professor Arkady Vorobyov had elite weightlifters clean a pair of 32 kilo bells 10 times, they were out of gas. 10 minutes later, the heart rate was still elevated. So, in immortal words of Greg Pappas, it's a smoker. Before the double clean, position the kettlebell handles in a wide open V with the bottom of the V facing you. Kenneth, why should we do that?
What this position in the V position handle does is that it internally rotates your shoulder as you're about to start to do the double clean. And that pre-stretches your external rotators. This is very important for shoulder health because a lot of people actually have imbalances between their internal and external rotation.
So that's healthy for the shoulder?
Absolutely. I work with some of the best swimmers in Denmark, and they always come to me complaining about shoulder pain. And mostly it's because they do a lot of internal rotation. So I prescribe this. Just position the kettlebells in the V so you get that pre-stretch of the external rotators, and then just go for it. No more pink rubber bands, sissified stuff like external rotation, but hardcore kettlebell stuff.
You heard him, comrade. No more pink bands, no more soup cans. Kettlebells with an open V. The technique is no different from the single clean. The smoking effect is much greater. Kenneth, please demonstrate. What you gotta watch out for is catching your fingers between the handles. Thank you, Kenneth. Let's see what it looks like from the side. Note that on the bottom of every clean, Kenneth's elbows straighten out completely, tighten your triceps. And notice his glutes and hips drive all the way to the top. The feet keep driving into the deck. Thank you, Kenneth. You have no business progressing to heavier bells until you've double cleaned 2 bells with perfect form 10 times. Cheating is out of the question. There are different ways you can cheat in the double clean. Kenneth, how do you scoop? What do you scoop?
Well, scooping would look something like this.
And it's easy, isn't it?
Very easy.
Comrade, it's easy, but we don't do easy around here, so don't scoop, don't even think about it. Looking up might encourage you to scoop because your body follows your head. You look up, your body goes back. Don't do it. Look down at the horizon. The reason it happens is this. You're cheating. You start losing confidence in your strength. Let's use the example of the deadlift. Let's say the deadlift. Kenneth, pretend this is a very heavy deadlift.
All right.
Notice that whenever he runs at a sticking point, notice how he's going to handle it. He's going to keep driving through the sticking point without changing his position. Keeps driving, keeps driving, keeps driving. Excellent. Thank you. Park him. Now let's pretend you're a beginner and you run into the same sticking point. What are you going to do? Oh! Okay, you lose confidence in your strength. As soon as you lose confidence in your strength, you try to find a way of weaseling out of the situation. So you deviate from the groove. So if you have confidence in your hip power, if you keep pushing your feet hard into the ground, if you tense the glutes really hard, and if you don't try muscling from the arms, you're leaning back, you'll finish that clean. But don't progress to heavier bells until you can do this perfect. Return of the Kettlebell is a power program, so you must breathe as a power athlete. As the bell is coming back, as you're swinging it back, you must sharply inhale through your nose. Through your nose, into your stomach, deep into your stomach, even into your groin. As you're finishing the clean, you're going to grunt, partially exhale the bell. Kenneth, please demo. When you start sucking wind, you may take 2 inhales on the way down. Listen. Thank you, Kenneth. One more thing you got to do is breathe behind the shield. What does breathing behind the shield mean? It means you must stay tight while you're breathing. Don't ever relax your diaphragm, or else. Ladies are not going to likely to catch the bells between their fingers, but they have a different problem. Ladies, you got to watch your breasts. You don't want to bang your breasts up with the bells or with the kettlebells. That's why you'll have to rack uncomfortably wide. So be it. Backs to lifters, our biceps to bodybuilders, quipped Dr. Strawson. So, the double kettlebell snatch to us is like the curl to them. Kenneth, please demonstrate. Notice that you must lower the bells to your chest before dropping them. Your knees will be happy. This is what the drill looks from the side. Notice you may also lower the bells loosely, as you would for the jerk. Their prerequisites for the double kettlebell snatch are a perfect single kettlebell snatch, perfect shoulder mobility and stability overhead, a powerful double swing, and a lot of great outdoors to drop the bells in case things go wrong. Drive hard, look down at the horizon, finish with the glutes very tight. Don't bother taking a second dip, get strong instead. This is what ladies' double snatch looks like. The kettlebell front raise snatch is possibly the best upper back builder that you can find, and a shoulder builder too. Kenneth, please demonstrate. Snatch the kettlebell with a straight arm, but let it flip over your fist earlier than usual. Punch through the handle. Finish with the arm in front of you, parallel to the deck. Thank you, Kenneth. It's an extreme front raise. You must freeze momentarily your body like a statue. Then hike the kettlebell back between your legs for another rep. Kenneth, let's see it from the front, please. It's imperative that your abs, glutes, quads, everything is locked to protect your lower back. Don't roll on your toes. And don't forget to tense your lat and suck your shoulder in the socket. Visualize your body as a steel beam, dug deep into the ground, with another girder, your arm, welded to the front. If this makes little sense to you, you've not drilled your basics enough. The side raise snatch is another excellent shoulder builder. You have to take a wider frog stance in order to avoid the knees and swing the bell at an angle to your body. Kenneth, please demo. Watch those knees, comrades. If this doesn't build your shoulders, nothing will.
The traditional push press has a couple of problems, or potential problems. First of all, there's the whole timing thing with the knee dip and the leg drive. So in a traditional fashion, a regular push press would go like this. So you're going to clean the bell, you're going to drive, and then catch it again. And
then straighten out your legs and wait before you start the next rep.
Wait before you start the next rep, exactly. And the second thing, while you're resting here in the rack position, you could be compromising your lower back because you're going to lose your abdominal tightness.
Oh yeah, it's a lot easier to just chill,
collapse
yeah.
around it. So to make it safer and more effective and easier to learn, we do it slightly differently. So instead of resting in the rack, we're going to be resting up here, and just every time we catch the bell, we're going to immediately shoot back up
So that's
again.
going to help you stay tighter. It's going to keep you in mind to keep your spine straight.
Absolutely. You don't have the tendency to lean back and collapse around in on the bell.
And you're probably not going to dip too deep or not deep enough, because if you dip just a little, basically you're just kind of hurting your knees. If you go down too deep, you don't generate as much power. Same thing as in the vertical jump,
Absolutely.
If you go from here, it doesn't go as far. If you go from way in the squat,
Absolutely.
it doesn't go as well either.
Doesn't go as well.
Good.
Either.
Could you show us one more time?
Absolutely. So the Viking push press. Cleaning the bell, driving.
So that's the starting point. So you could even start with a snatch if you want to, right?
Yeah, that is actually the starting point.
Okay.
And from here, the drop goes down, into my legs immediately, and I shoot back up again.
Excellent. So there's no pause on the bottom at all.
No pause.
It's like
on
a
the
jump.
bottom. Yeah, just like a jump. We wanted to take advantage of that elastic recoil.
Okay, that's excellent. How about the rack position? Like, how different would that be from the rack for the press, let's say?
Oh, of course, the rack is somewhat different from the press. You want to align the kettlebell handle much more like across the base of the palm. So you get to the ulnar side of your palm.
Just the heel of the palm.
The heel of the palm, yeah. Right here. And then relax fingers. You don't need to grip it way too tight. Because this is, you're going to drive with the legs and you're going to finish out with your triceps and your
So you
deltoid.
just don't really need the shoulder much. And you kind of want to be really pressed tight against the body, right?
Like that, yeah.
And in the press
I don't
you
want to
would...
be like this, though.
No. And in
wanna
the
be very
press, you would do what? Where would you send the tension in the press?
Tension in the press would be out here.
Yeah. So it goes through the lat,
Goes
kind
through
of.
the lat into the leg.
And here it goes straight into your torso.
Straight into
your
your
torso.
So it evenly distributed around the glutes.
Well, that's cool. Let's do a couple of reps.
All right. So set you up from the beginning. And from here.
Shits is right out there. Excellent. Could you please face me, Kenneth? Let's do a couple
Absolutely.
more.
So again.
Comrades, what you got to watch is this. His heels stay flat. His spine stays flat. Thank you, Kenneth. Kenneth, why don't we want to let the heels come up in the push press?
Well, it's not necessarily a crime to do that. It's not exactly wrong, but it has a couple of potential problems.
That's when we're going up, right?
When we're going up,
Yeah.
When we're going up, and if I were to continue the motion coming off my heels like that, I'll be growing very tall, and that could lead
Like
to...
you need that, like you have that problem.
Like I need that, yeah. But I don't want to be too tall because it could compromise my abdominal compression.
Okay.
So
yeah, as you go long,
opening
you
up.
lose that brace. Okay.
Absolutely. And getting rid of coming up on the heels takes pretty much care of that.
Okay. Why wouldn't you want to come up on your toes when you're dropping the bell, when you're catching it?
Well, that's basically because we want this exercise to go directly into the quads. We don't want to go up and meet the bell, kind of like they do in competition style.
Yep.
We don't want that. We want this to be a smoker on the quads.
Okay. And plus, we're going to be safer pretty much, because if you land on your toes, if you first land on your toes, comrades, it can be done definitely safely, but you got to get the timing right. Toes first, heels next. You kind of roll with it. We just want to keep that heel solid, and we just land exactly in the center of the foot when we catch it, and rebound exactly straight up, and the spine stays straight, not totally vertical. You're going to sit back slightly. You can't sit back too far, but slightly. Well, let's see how it looks like.
All right. Do one more time. And actually, you could start off with snatching the bell overhead to start like that. So I'm just going to do that. So all the way up, all set up.
Notice the spine stays straight. The abs get tight when he catches it. The trunk stays stiff. Thank you, Kenneth. Notice he doesn't really bounce it off his rib cage either. It's possible to do so, but we don't want to do that because we want to work those quads right there. Kenneth, without the bell, facing me, could you please show what you could possibly do wrong with the spine, how when you catch the bell?
When you catch the bell, you could collapse way too much, coming all the way in like this, and then doing this with the chest, like creating a bounce.
Which for our purposes is not appropriate.
No.
What about, let's see, could you show what happens if your heels come up when you're catching it? Let's say the bell's overhead, you're dropping it, and your heels come up.
Oh,
Without the bell.
Okay.
No, we don't do with the bell the wrong way, right?
That's true.
We don't want to confuse you, comrades.
All right. So we're here, and we're up here, raising up on the heels first, rocking back, and this actually might even shift my balance a little bit, but at least it's going to compress my midsection way too much.
Or it could let you, or it makes you go forward like this and crunch your knees. It's not going to feel good either. Okay, how about the breathing? Listen to his breathing right now. Please do a couple more reps.
Right here.
Note the compression. Note the power. Thank you, Kenneth. Comrades, on to some subtleties. Let's talk about the rack a little bit. You don't want your rib cage to be exaggeratedly huge, you know, like, oh, you're out here. You're not a weightlifter. We're not lifting, you know, jerking 400 pounds right here. It's not happening. And we don't want to go to the other extreme either. So we want to find the rack and we want to find the chest position. That's somewhere in between, you know. It's there, it's tight. The chest is not too big, it's not too small. And what about the stance, Kenneth?
Well, this entire exercise is about power, and we want the most power out of it. So we need to address the stance. Normally, or to get the highest power out of the body and out of the Viking push press, we need to move the stance in just a little bit.
Kind of like in the jump. You don't want to jump from,
exactly.
Way out here.
It'll be very, very hard to make a really high jump from
Sometimes we just compromise for double kettlebell exercises just because we have to miss the knees, right?
Absolutely. But in this case, it's not a problem because we will only be cleaning it once, and that allows us to bring the stance in just a little bit. So what we're really looking for is bringing the stance in about shoulder width so we can really create that force transmission into the floor, and that'll give us a lot of power back. Okay? So what we're going to be doing is cleaning it up and then bringing the stance in, getting ready for the push presses. So it goes up.
Kenneth, where are you looking when you do this exercise, and where you should not be looking?
I'm definitely not looking up. I'm looking straight ahead at an angle down.
And if you look up, what would happen?
If I look up, I would tilt backwards.
Yeah, you're going to go up, you see your body follows, like the scoop on the clean, the same thing, right?
Absolutely, and I would lose my abdominal compression, so we don't want that.
Okay, when you practice, what's a good way to practice this exercise?
Well, actually, a good way to practice this is just by doing a bunch of reps and increasing the speed of it.
Okay.
And the progression from there is actually not going to a heavier bell, but grabbing two bells of the same size. So going for doubles.
When you use singles, do you have to lock out every time in the practice, or could you just kind of smudge the reps and go fast?
You could smudge the reps, and that would work quite well, actually.
Could you show us this illegal push press?
Illegal push press.
That's
right.
Right.
Let's see. So I'm just going to snatch it up first to bring it into position. Right here, and then we could go.
You see, comrades, we don't get a full lockout because that's going to help us get the timing. And eventually progress to doing it which way? Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Kenneth. Would you please demonstrate right now how to do this with two bells?
Absolutely. Again, could snatch them up.
Okay.
From here, bring the stance in just a little bit.
Would you please face me this time?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And now what do you do to put him down?
Like this.
Excellent. And pretty much the progression. Do you want to go really heavy on these or not?
No, this works well for power development, and we don't want to go too heavy because we want the speed of it.
And besides, we're going to really slow down the reversal if the bells are really heavy.
Absolutely. We want this to be as quick as a jump.
Excellent. For that, we have jerks, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, comrades, get your Viking push presses in. Get some Viking muscles built there. This is what the Viking push press looks like for ladies. If you may catch the bell outside the breast, go for it. If you don't, we'll have to find another option. Comrade, it goes without saying that you have no business tackling the program Return of the Kettlebell before you have completed Enter the Kettlebell. Enter the Kettlebell has developed your shoulder stability and mobility to the point where you can hold your arm overhead close to your ear and slightly behind it. Kenneth, please demonstrate. This is the position we're shooting for. But for jerks and push presses, you might require even more mobility. Kenneth, please demonstrate the exercise. Notice he's going to perform springy action of his chest against the bell, while at the same time, the shoulder stays sucked into the socket, as it always does during overhead lifts. Comrade, you need mobile shoulders to make your overhead lifts effortless. One excellent drill is hanging on a pull-up bar. Take a fairly narrow overhand grip and just hang on the bar. Don't let your shoulders come out of their sockets, but relax everything else. Swing around, left and right, side to side. You may use the contract-release technique as well, as long as you don't let your shoulders come out too much. Tense, release, tense, release. You may do this before you do your jerks, between your sets of jerks, after you do your jerks. Here's another excellent shoulder mobility drill. It also stretches your lats and pecs. Again, keep your shoulders in their sockets. Tighten the glutes to protect your back. Move around side to side. Breathe out passively. Generally, use a narrow grip, but if your shoulders are very wide, you may have to spread your hands out. The same thing applies to jerks and overhead drills. Ideally, the kettlebells should be almost touching each other. But if that means you have to shrug your shoulders up to accomplish it, that's out of the question. Comrade, here's another drill to help you hold the kettlebells overhead without effort. First, you have to understand that you may not bend your elbow and you may not flare out your elbow. Kenneth, please show the wrong way to do that. There we go. When that happens, that really will mess you up. Now, please show the right way of doing that. Shoulders are sucked in. They're sucked into their sockets. Elbows are really straight. Elbows come in. So here's the drill. Please place your hands on top of the bar. Any stationary object will do. Arms are straight. Shoulders are in the sockets. Now you push your hips back as far as possible. And at this point, start performing springy movement with your chest. Make sure that your elbows do not flare. Shoulders do not come out. If you have a partner you could trust, you could have him do this. Comrade, time for the big pain, the jerk. Unlike the push press, it allows you to use a lot of weight, which means a great systemic smoker, which means a lot of muscle gain. Kenneth, what's the difference technique-wise between the push press and the jerk?
The main difference between the push press and the jerk is that we're going to add in a second knee dip, so we can put more weight overhead, basically, because it allows us to move quickly under the weight.
It's like we lift it as high as we can and we kind of weasel under it, right?
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. Could you show it how to do it?
Absolutely.
Notice you change the stance. Thank you, Kenneth. So obviously a lot of technique elements are very similar to that of the Viking push press. The differences are you hesitate where you pause on the bottom as opposed to pausing on the top. And you take the first dip, then you drive the bell, then the bell goes up, and then you take the second dip, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the difference. This is called the jerk. We can also do later on, when you guys get it, we can do the clean and jerk, which is where you perform a clean between each jerk, and well, that smokes you even more. Kenneth, please demonstrate.
The clean and jerk.
Notice the spine stays flat. There's a brace. Same breathing. The heels don't come up. You do that and you shall become a better man, guaranteed. The Viking push press sets you up for a perfect first dip and drive. And because the bell's falling. With the jerk, things are not so simple because you have to start from here. How far do you dip? How fast do you dip? I don't know. Kenneth, could you show me what happens if you dip very fast when you take the first dip?
Yes.
Thank you. Let's park that bell. You guys watch a cartoon, you know, there's this character, he's standing there, he's got a hat on, suddenly goes, speeds away, and that hat keeps hanging behind him when he's left. So that's exactly what's going to happen to the kettlebell if you dip down too fast. The purpose of the first dip is not to get away from the kettlebell. That's the purpose of the second dip. The purpose of the first dip is to get down with the kettlebell, stay one with the kettlebell, and only accelerate afterwards. So let's see how it's done correctly. Notice that it goes down not too fast, but it goes down very fast when he takes the second dip. Please pause right there in the chest with the kettlebell, Kenneth. And if you're not getting it, a great exercise to learn how to do this is to start performing quarter squats with a kettlebell. Please start squatting. Notice he adjusted his stance and start go faster and faster, faster and faster. And eventually the bells start lifting up, faster and faster, faster, faster. Notice he's not going any deeper, he's going faster. And just he goes straight into the jerk when he got it. There we go, excellent. And that's how we learn the dip and the drive. The second dip is important for two reasons. The first one is obvious. The faster you come under the weights, well, the heavier weights you can lift or the more reps that you can do. The second one is not as obvious. Think of it this way. It's like your body, it's like the rocket exhaust. That body moving away from the kettlebell propels the kettlebell upward. So the second dip, unlike the first dip, must be as fast and as explosive as possible. Many of you will get it just by cheating the kettlebell up, just doing enough reps with it and it'll just come right up. If you still don't get it, here are a couple tips to help you master the second dip. The first one is to focus on driving the heels at 5 o'clock. Okay, Kenneth, if you're facing me this way, then, well, the 5 o'clock are going to be in this direction. And pretend, comrade, that you want to drive the heels into the ground at that direction, not straight down, but in that direction. Not that they're really coming up when you're driving, but you still have to drive them down during the second dip. Let's demonstrate, Kenneth. Notice it's very subtle, but there's this great reaction force going to the ground. Keeping the kettlebell on your chest, please face the class, Kenneth. If you still didn't get it, try the following tip. Try jumping into a wider stance when you perform your second dip. Thank you, Kenneth. The key to the second dip is really, well, just doing enough reps. To develop your confidence for the second dip, you may do the following drill. Kenneth, please put the kettlebells up overhead. Take a dip, slight squat, exactly as dip at the second dip, and start moving. Step forward, step sideways, step backwards. It's a terrific exercise for your shoulder stability and for confidence. Now you can also try from the same position. You can try moving the kettlebells together, moving them apart, moving them back, moving them forth. Please face me, Kenneth. Go in the same squat, quarter squat. Observe, you can perform different movements. You can move the kettlebells back and forth. He's going to move them closer together and apart. He's going to make circles with the same kettlebells. Now he's going to lower the bells to his chest and press without losing that position. And that's very hard. Excellent. Please lower them to the rack again. These are quite advanced exercises. Something that's more basic is simply putting the bells up overhead and just going for a walk with them. So just walk, and just keep on walking. The important thing is that you have enough shoulder mobility at this point in this position. Now keep walking, Kenneth. Come on, man. Keep going. Another excellent tool for developing shoulder stability for the jerk is pausing with the kettlebells overhead as opposed to on the chest. Kenneth, please demonstrate. He's going to hold them there for a few seconds. Then he's going to drop them as normal and with a very minimal pause on the bottom, jerk him up again. And he's going to stay there again longer. The beauty of this very short pause on the chest is he's also going to stay tight through his stomach. So that's another great thing about this. That last drill stressed that you should not be relaxing your DRABs when you're pausing between your jerks. If you do, that could be a problem for your spine. And let's see what it looks like in real time just with normal double kettlebell jerks. Thank you, Kenneth. Some of you comrades whose shoulders are somewhat tight will not be able to lock out the bells in the narrower stance that's optimal for the jerk. In that case, you should be doing your jerks with a slightly wider stance. Kenneth, please demonstrate. Notice he simply did not bring his feet in after the jerk, after the clean, I mean. Pay attention to the terminology, comrade. You know what, as long as your stance is wide, why don't you just do some cleans in between? Come on. Now this is called the long cycle. The long cycle, that's a real smoker. It leaves no muscle unthrashed in your body. Thanks, Kenneth. You're next. As an enter the kettlebell, in return of the kettlebell, the press is the main event. Except now we press 2 bells. Kenneth, please demonstrate. The technique is hardly different, except you don't kick your hip over to the side. But you still have to keep the glutes super tight to protect the back, and you have to pull the bells down as if you're performing a chin-up on the rings to put the bells down. Thank you, Kenneth. Unlike in the jerk, you don't have to change the stance. You have nothing to gain by moving your feet after the clean. Now, to make things even more complicated, in this program, we're going to snatch the bells and then lower them to the shoulder before pressing them. Kenneth, please face away from the camera and show us how we do it. Notice there is no relaxation whatsoever. Thank you. Comrades, note that Kenneth hisses powerfully, power breathes as he's pressing the bells up. There's more than one way to breathe on the way down. One way is to do the same, something you just heard him do, which creates great compression and greatly strengthens your pulling strength. Several of our KCs have worked up to the one-arm chin just by practicing the kettlebell press. Another way to breathe in is just pulling the air in through your nose all the way deep into your stomach, like you're storing elastic energy. Kenneth, please demonstrate. Thank you, Kenneth. And notice, in either case, you must match the breath with the force. The breathing and the effort must be synchronized. Kenneth, let's talk more about breathing. Why is power breathing so important? Why can't I just do this? I can't even say it. Pilates breathing. Why can't I do that?
Do you feel strong doing that right now?
Are you kidding me?
Well, you see, we want strength and we want safety. That's why we power breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And could you just expand a little bit about the 2 different types of inhalation that you demonstrated for our victims?
Sure. The 2 different types that we demonstrated right before, that was the first one was a hissing on the way down, and the second part was a sharp inhalation on the way down. Either of them work fine.
Which one do you prefer?
I prefer the first one.
Okay.
But it really doesn't matter.
The one where you hiss on the way down.
Like that. That increases my pulling strength.
But what do you do right here? Like, what type of breathing do you perform when you pause with the kettlebell before the pressing it again? Is there any kind of breathing going on?
No, there's no additional breathing going on. If I were hissing on my way down and feeling really compressed right here, and then I would go, and then trying to sip up again.
Or even inhale again.
Or inhaling again, I would lose all my strength.
Yeah, like try to get a hit when you just inhale. Not really recommended, right?
So don't do that additional exhalation, inhalation thing at the
And
bottom.
that applies to either type of breathing, right?
Absolutely.
But pretty much you got to figure out whichever way works for you.
Yeah, either way is cool, but as long as you don't do that additional exhalation.
See, you have to breathe behind the shield, comrades. You must stay tight. You must have this compression going on right here. You know, another way to breathe is you may also just grunt, you know, just grunt from here. Works for some people. So the important thing, power breathe. How you do that, deal with it. Comrade, the return of the kettlebell features presses with 2 kettlebells of different sizes. You might have a 32 in this hand, a 16 in this hand. One of the reasons for that is to work your stabilizing muscles. Another reason is to enable you to work up to pressing a pair of heavier bells without taking such huge jumps. Let's say that you can press a pair of 32s for reps. You can press 140, but you still can't press 240s. Pressing a 40 plus a 32 will get you there. Besides, performing a snatch of 2 different weights before you do your presses, well, snatch is harder. If you're getting tired, can't snatch the bells anymore, the gig is up. Kenneth, do you have anything to add to that?
No, just that the press with the uneven sized kettlebells really hits all those little stabilizing muscles in your torso, and that's just perfect.
So we're using 2 bells, but we're kind of getting benefits of unilateral training at the same time.
Absolutely.
Would you please demonstrate how to do this with 2 bells of different sizes?
Yes.
Thank you. Comrade, squat time. First, you got to find your stance. So what you got to do first is hold on to a stationary object. I'm going to be that object, and you're going to get down to, well, Americans call it, what do they call it, Ken? It's the baseball catcher stance? Something like that. All right, so care to tango? All right, so he's going to get down into the bottom of the squat. Come on, man, go for it. And now he's going to start shuffling his feet until he finds a stance that's comfortable for him, working his stand for a while. He keeps his back straight, and he wants to make sure his knees are feeling good, his ankles are feeling good, and everything. So this is his stance. Thank you, Kenneth. Please stand up. On the bottom of the squat, what you want to do, please face the camera, and please show how the feet should be aligned. Notice the feet are pointing the same direction as the knees. The width of the stance is going to be different for everybody. Everybody's got a different structure. But the distribution of the weight on the foot laterally, side to side, must be 50-50. If your feet are rolling inward, please show how they do that. That's bad news for your knees. If they roll outward, well, come on, this is not ballet. We're not doing plie here, all right? And that can jack up your hips as well. So 50-50 distribution, knees are tracking, the back stays completely flat. If you cannot achieve those things, you may have to see a certified CKFMS instructor. Find the directions on dragondoor.com. Comrade, we're going to use Dan John's goblet squat as the vehicle to teach you to squat deep and safe. Kenneth, please grab the kettlebell. Note how he picks it up, holds it by the horns, and he starts the squat by pushing his knees apart. He aims his elbows exactly inside his knees, right here on the inner quad, and that's where he's going to stay. He's going to breathe, but he's going to breathe fairly shallow. He's not going to let all the air out and collapse his back. His spine is going to stay long. So his butt is going to keep sinking deeper and deeper, but without letting his spine collapse, without letting his spine round. So Kenneth, how is it feeling there?
This is pretty good.
Okay. Can't go any deeper?
This is about the limit.
Okay, you don't go any deeper than your body tells you to do. Comrade, you go deeper in the squat, not by forcing your joints, not by forcing your muscles, but by finding space within them. Observe. Without letting the spine collapse, Kenneth is going to start doing some curls. Yeah, man, he loves curls. You love curls, right?
I love him.
He loves curls. So he's going to do some curls. Notice as he's doing his curls, he's sinking deeper. His elbows aren't moving. Now he's going to move his body side to side. Side to side. And as he's doing that, he's imagining he's pulling his hips out of the sockets. He's imagining his hips are getting wider. He's imagining his spine is getting longer. Not arched, just longer. And now he's feeling pretty good at that point. He's just going to take a grunt and just come up. Hey! Nice. Kenneth's squat will look different from mine, and mine will look different from yours. Once again, you must keep your elbows inside your knees. What's sinking on you is your butt, not your elbows. Observe what not to do. Don't even think about it. The kettlebell front squat is an excellent leg strength developer, and it also teaches you abdominal pressurization for being strong in your presses and other exercises. The barbell front squat is hard on the wrist. The dumbbell front squat, well, it's not really a front squat. And the kettlebell front squat, well, it hits the spot. And once you get your goblet squat down and know your cleans, there's really nothing to it. They're simply hard, just not complex. Let's do it, Kenneth. Notice he didn't have to change his stance after the clean, but many of you will have to take a closer stance after the clean. Some of you may interlace the fingers after the clean, but again, it's not necessary. Notice how your power breathe is going up. Thank you, Kenneth. Please park the bell. Notice that he hisses to come up. You may also grunt, but you see, power breathing is a very personal thing. Why don't you like grunting when you come up in the squat, Kenneth?
Well, if I grunt when I come out of the hole in the squat, I tend to lose too much air. And when I lose too much air, my body goes like this.
Okay.
So I'm round backing up.
We don't want to do that.
Don't want that.
We definitely don't want to do that. So that's the double kettlebell front squat. Unfortunately for you, comrade, on the return of the kettlebell plan, you're only going to be doing squats after you've done your snatches and you've done your presses. And it's all back to back. Kenneth, please demonstrate a typical set. See, we do one snatch, Then we do a series of presses, whatever the plan calls for, somewhere between 1 and 5. And after the presses, you change the stance if necessary, and you perform 5 squats, always 5. Thanks, Kenneth. Well, I'm glad that wasn't me. And this is what ladies' front squat looks like. And if you just can't keep the bells or elbows off your breasts, then ladies, roll the bells into your shoulders and squat like this. Make sure you keep your back really straight in this position, as it's hard to keep your abs tight. Comrade, you'll get tight in your hip flexors from squatting, so stretch these muscles. Assume the kneeling lunge position on a soft surface. If your knee is hurt by the surface, you're going to be distracted from your stretch. Your hips must be square. Your feet must be, well, you could say they're on railroad tracks, not in one line. Your torso must be upright at all times. Point the foot of the back leg. If your back knee is flopping out, imagine that you're squeezing something between your knees. I know you got your thigh master, so just drag it out and squeeze those knees, or else. All right now, the shin of the front leg should be near vertical. You may have to step forward during the stretch as you're sinking lower and the knee is moving forward. You may hold on to something on your side though. You may not lean forward on your knee, ever. Kenneth, please demonstrate how not to do it, leaning on your knee. You see, that defeats the purpose. We're trying to stretch the front of the right thigh. You're just taking the load right off there. So please don't ever do that again. Now, you can even better press your palms into the small of your back if you don't need to balance. Now, squeeze your glutes and push your hips forward. Your pelvis, not your chest. Kenneth, please demonstrate false flexibility again, the chest going forward. He can't even do it incorrectly. You see, the man always does it right. If you try to lean forward with your chest, lean forward with your chest. There we go. You can't do it wrong. Well, kind of, sort of. Good, thank you. Now, the hips always must lead, and the weight must always stay on your rear knee. At the same time, as you go forward, lengthen your spine. Don't hyperextend it. And imagine that you're trying to pull both of your hips out of the sockets. I repeat, do not overarch your spine and do not turn your hips. This is false flexibility. Get into a rhythm of approximately 1 rep every 2 seconds. Relax and go back. Push, relax, go back. Notice, the harder you tense the glutes, the easier it is on your lower back. Now here's a great way to earn yourself 100 swings. About everything you could do wrong. Notice, the hips are turned, the foot is at an angle, the knee is flared out, he's leaning against his knee. If you, comrade, think you're going to get flexible this way, you got another thing coming. Kenneth, please show them the right way. Nice and upright, the hips are squared, facing forward, the legs on railroad tracks. Now that stretch can be focused on the front of the back thigh, which is where we want it. Notice there is a rhythm. It's not a static stretch, and it's not a fast stretch. It's a rhythmical stretch, approximately 1 repetition every 2 seconds. Imagine that you're pulling the hips out of the sockets. Imagine that you're making the front of the thigh longer. Comrade, here's the next progression. It's going to make your hips feel great. Kenneth, please grab my hand. You may use a stationary object, any stationary object over your head. So note, if you're stretching the right side, you lift your right arm up and hold on to something on your left. If you're stretching the right side, that side on your back, you're going to make circles with your hips that are clockwise. Kenneth, please start. Notice, he's trying to push his hips far away in that direction. And as he's pushing his hips farther away from me, he's making circles, clockwise circles with his hips. When he's stretching his left side, he would be making counterclockwise circles. And you really take your time and find the space in that joint, and it feels great. Sorry to hear that. For whatever reason, light, like 20, 30% of your max, deadlifts for 20 reps, touch and go, not fast at all, build strength and muscle. Kenneth, please demonstrate. It's a lot simpler than the swing. Notice touch and go. Very gently he touches the deck, and at no point he loses his air. He breathes, but he breathes behind the shield. Nothing is fast, so controlled. Thank you, Kenneth. Sometimes the return of the kettlebell plan will call for deadlifts with different size kettlebells. Kenneth, please demonstrate. Notice that even though the bells are of different sizes, his hips and the bells will stay even. No matter how light the bells are, on the top of each deadlift, you have to squeeze the glutes tight, push your feet through the ground, just as if you're deadlifting your maximum load. And about 20 times of this. Again, better him than me. Nothing develops strength and bodies better than kettlebell athletics, stated Russian magazine Hercules over 100 years ago. In Imperial Russia, kettlebell lifters sported amazing strength and development, all before steroids, protein shakes, and easy living. The long-lost secret of strength and muscle is about to make a spectacular comeback. Now, in Return of the Kettlebell, the ancient Gita meets the most cutting-edge research on strength and hypertrophy. Power to you!